Of course, the problem is there is censorship now, political censorship. And as I've said, I know what political censorship is, and what we're dealing with right now is political censorship. I think it started in the 2016 election when Donald J. Trump won, and he wasn't supposed to win. The establishment was shocked. They were like scratching their heads and saying, "What can we do to stop this from happening again?" Putting aside the fact that they also were looking at what they could do to stop it during the election. And that's a big subject. I'm not really going to go into that too much right now. But the point is that big tech, I think, developed means to shadow ban and with algorithm and with censorship. One of the big ones that was shadow banned and one of the big ones that was actually very helpful to President Trump's victory was the Breitbart site. And they lost a lot of followers after that election. Now, that is not normal. People like Sarah Palin saw her Facebook page cut in half. Conservatives just were completely decimated. And of course, it reached a pinnacle when President Trump, after being declared the loser in the election by the media in 2020, would be eventually banned outright. He had something like 4.5 million Twitter followers, and he could reach people directly. He was a very, very effective communicator. And I think that the internationalist oriented, illuminated establishment plotted ways to take him out and get away with it. And they eventually found the excuse of claiming that he had supported an insurrection on January 6th, which of course was a big lie. But yet they had the backing of the same establishment that tried to claim that Donald Trump was spying for Russia, a preposterous lie, and that he had done something wrong by asking the Ukrainian president to continue an investigation that was started under the Obama administration of shady dealings by Hunter Biden, and he was impeached for that one. And then, of course, he was also impeached after he left office for this cooked up insurrection, which was completely false, and which now we have people in prison being held without facing charges for minor crimes. Crimes, yes, but not the kinds of crimes that in America people are held indefinitely in prison and facing large prison terms for. So I'm going to just stay on briefly because, again, I'm gearing up for the big launch on January 1st, and I'm just kind of dabbling tonight. 617-396-4958 is the number if you'd like to join. 617-396-4958. I'm also looking at my chat line. If you'd like to say something, you're welcome to do that, and I will get into it over the air. And the website, again, is charlesmoscowitz.com. Between now and the 1st, as I prepare for the launch and as I line up guests and as I get ready to gear myself up to do this and, sort of get my sleep patterns together so I can do it with some cohesion, I'm also going to be setting up various media type things to help draw in an audience because, as I've said and as has been said and has been proven, frankly, I am facing major censorship, both in terms of what I can get into and also where, how many people I can reach. And that's why I've set up this page, charlesmoscowitz.com, which has something like 30 different venues. So if any one venue takes me down, I'll be up on the other venues, and hopefully I'll continue to move forward inexorably and continue to gather strength over time and an audience, with my goal being simply, look, my goals in doing this program are relatively modest. I don't expect to get rich off it. I don't expect to get famous. In fact, I'd rather fly a little bit under the radar, frankly. I simply expect to develop enough of an audience of interested people on all sides of the political spectrum that we can really engage in some good, in-depth, no holds barred conversation about issues that affect our lives and our futures. And those issues are very profound, and those issues are things that I deeply care about, and I assume others do as well. And to have that happen every night between 10 and 12 midnight Eastern Time, and really to develop kind of a synergy, a happening. And that's really my goal here. And I also will tell you that my program is self-sponsored. I'm not going to go out and try to find sponsors because I've tried to climb that mountain in the past and I've really not gotten anywhere. I also don't like to do what I see other talk show hosts doing, which is ask for money. That's not something I'm going to do. Don't send money, please. In fact, I that makes me nervous. Um, the way to help the program, the way the program is sponsored, is to buy my books. My book, they're not expensive. They range between $3 and $8, depending on whether you want an email book, a Kindle, or a soft cover. I'm the author of about 20 books, and they're available at Amazon Books. So that's if you want to sponsor, rather than just send money, buy a book and you'll get something of value. You'll get a piece of my mind, a piece of my research. One of my most recent books, I'll just hold it up for you, is The Satanic Conspiracy, The Spectre Haunting Mankind. Those are the kind of books I write. And my most recent book is called Sociology for Conservatives. Um, I'm a student of sociology here in Boston at Bunker Hill Community College. I'm getting a degree in sociology at my old age. And I've noticed that there is no conservative school of sociology. So in my own modest way, I've written a little pamphlet, a short book, that might help trigger the launching of sociological thinking, social thinking, from a conservative perspective, because sociology, which is the study of society and the study of behavior and how society interacts with other societies, is absolutely natural to conservative thinking. And that's my contention. And that conservative thinking is progressive. That is my contention. Anyway, I think on that note, I'm going to just bring up one quick issue here, and then you can take the opportunity at this late point to either send in a chat at YouTube where I am reading chats. I haven't seen any come in yet. I got Rob Smith there. Sixth Circuit ruling. I don't know anything about it, Rod. Please fill me in. What is the Sixth Circuit ruling right now? I haven't seen this. Is this in the news today? Let me know what that's about, and I'd like to, and I'll get into it. Also, at this point, you can call in. Don't be afraid to call in. Pick up the phone. This is a talk show. This is live. 617 396 4958. 617 396 4958. I just want to talk a little bit about something that Steve Turley has touched on his excellent YouTube. He's been a guest of mine a couple of times. And he mentions that there has been a major surge covered by the New York Times across the country of people joining both the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and other militia groups, other conservative groups, what they call, quote, right-wing conservative groups. And I see this as a very good development. I think it's something that's natural in lieu of a breakdown in law and order in many communities, which started with the defund the police movement and the rise of radicals who are basically looting minority businesses and burning black neighborhoods. That's what happened with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. He went to Kenosha to defend his family's gas station and to help people who were being wounded in these looting attacks. because the city of Kenosha was afraid to do their job with their police and stop the riots because they thought they might be accused of having something against black men and women, which is, of course, a lie. And the fact is that the people who came in to do the looting were looting black men, the businesses of black men and women. People who are trying to make a living, people who are trying to get to school, people who are just like everyone else. And they're attacked, and Kyle Rittenhouse is defending them, and he ended up defending himself and shooting 3 people, killing 2. Um, Obviously, the jury recognized it was in self-defense. Even the New York Times admits that. At least their podcast does, The Circle. And I bring this up in a microcosm only to show that, in the broad sense, the failure of communities to engage in proper law enforcement to protect the citizens from criminals has resulted in citizens forming these militias to take those kinds of actions in defense, in self-defense, and in defense of their own communities and their properties. And that's what this is about. The Proud Boys was started by Gavin McInnes. I'm going to try to get him on the show. I know that he's pretty popular, but he's been banned from YouTube. So it's going to be risky for me to do that. Maybe if I do that, by the way, and I have a guest like that on, and I have a lot of them I want to get on and will be trying to get on, I might shut down the YouTube channel for that particular show and just simply do a little introduction saying, I'm having this guest on. Please go to my website and you can listen live on these other live streams, or you could listen to the podcast, but you're not going to hear it on YouTube. So, that's the strategy. I don't know if it'll work. Maybe they'll pull the plug on the whole thing. I don't know. I'm going to do my best. The point with Proud Boys, however, is that it is a defensive group. They are not out there looting businesses and burning neighborhoods like the left-wing Antifa and elements of BLM, who are really the shock troops of the Democratic Party. They are there in defense. And look, could they become radicalized? Yeah, I think we have to be careful. Think we have to keep an eye on them. I'll give an example. When I was growing up in Boston, I'm kind of aging myself here. As a Jew, the Jewish neighborhood of Dorchester and parts of and Roxbury and parts of Mattapan, where you had a lot of Jews who were basically driven out in the 60s because of redlining and because of attacks and because of a breakdown of law and order, you had a situation where the Jews that were left behind in those neighborhoods were Jews who either were too poor to get out or they were elderly. And you had people who were being mugged by gangs. Like my old Aunt Celia was attacked and somebody grabbed her purse. She wasn't hurt, but people were being attacked. And the result was that since there wasn't sufficient law enforcement, young Jews formed an organization called the Jewish Defense League, headed up by a rabbi by the name of Meir Kahana. And he was a local Boston guy at the time. And they formed a militia. And when they heard of an old lady getting attacked in Mattapan, they would show up. They would go out there. New York had the same thing with Curtis Sliwa and his the red hats. I forget what they called it. It was a response to the breakdown of law and order in that community. And I remember I was only a little kid at the time. My brother and I, we were both like, 8 years old. And we were like, wow, this is great. The Jews are not getting kicked around. They're standing up. They're fighting back. They were defensive. Now, I say this in the context that later on, Rabbi Kahana and parts of his group moved to Israel, where they did become radicals. And they were kicked out of the Knesset, and for good reason. They went extreme, okay? So, they start to talk about things like expelling Arabs from Israel, which is bad. And so I only say this because while I support militia groups like the Proud Boys, you have to watch them. They could be taken over by radicals, or they could be taken over and co-opted by FBI agents who push them in that direction. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying there's a lot of things that can happen. But given that fact and in that context, I see the development of the Proud Boys in cities, and they're doing more local things as being a positive development. They are dealing with situations where there's a breakdown of law and order. They're dealing with situations around excessive government control in the name of the pandemic. I don't want to get into that because that's forbidden on YouTube, but believe me, I'm going to get into it in other stations. And they're basically asserting the sovereign rights of Americans, the normal, natural rights of Americans. So I see that as a good thing. And the same thing goes with the Oath Keepers, who, according to Steve Turley, they had their computers hacked and they had a major doxing where their list of members was put out online. And the interesting thing about this was that it was discovered that a lion's share of their membership were former police officers, former military personnel, former first responders, people who wanted to stay involved in law enforcement and in law and order. And, they're labeled as extremists and nationalists and all that. Fine, they're not. They are simply citizens who want to make sure that they can stand up against groups that are radical, like Antifa, who are burning businesses and looting and killing people. And so, for that reason, it's a very positive development. Now, again, it has to be watched carefully. But as of now, I see it as a good defensive measure for sovereign citizens seeking to preserve freedoms. And freedom is something that is under siege in the world right now and in America at a level that has not happened ever in American history. Maybe with the possible exception of that brief period of World War One when the country became like a fascist dictatorship under Wilson, under the guise of a war emergency. That's an interesting history, but that's another subject for another day. Anyway, I think on that note, I'm going to say goodnight to everyone and again mention that the show is going to be 2 hours starting January 1st. I have guests I'm lining up. You can check it out on the website, which is charlesmoscowitz.com, where you can see all of the list of live stream sites and archive sites that are going to and that are carrying the show. And I'm hoping that I have enough of a diverse group of sites there that if I get canceled on one, I can still be up on the others. And then I can build a program. So I want to thank you for watching. Please check out my books available at Amazon Books. And again, this is Charles Moscowitz. I want to say Merry Christmas, and I do wish people a Merry Christmas. Even though I'm not Christian, I will tell you, Christmas is an American holiday. That's a fact. It was declared as such by an executive order issued by President Ulysses S. Grant in 1870. And so all Americans celebrate Christmas, and I'm glad that we do. I think it's a great holiday. I love the meaning of Christmas. The idea of a good, peace and goodwill toward men, and I also admire and honor Jesus, even though I don't believe in the Christian understanding of Jesus. I do believe that Jesus was probably, if not the most important human being to ever live, to ever walk the face of the earth, if for no other reason than he was a Jew and that his ministry conveyed the Torah and all of its moral and ethical precepts to the entire world. And it was in a way that Judaism could not do it. So I honor that. I think that Jesus, you could say, was responsible for not only the foundations of Western civilization, but its ultimate flowering, which was the foundation of the United States. And that, in fact, it has influenced the entire world in a very good and very positive way. And so I'm very proud and very happy to say Merry Christmas. And I want to thank you for watching, everyone. God bless you all. God bless this great country.
Great.